Hello, welcome to another cast from SC2 UK. I am your commentator, Chris Roxor Dixon, and today I've got an absolutely fantastic game to share with you guys in regards to a T versus T. The game was starting now on the 4.5 minute mark, as you can see by the very fancy overlay from the patch 1.3. It is pretty much all square. Both bases have been scouted by the opposition. On the bottom left-hand corner, right-hand corner, we have Hades, who's done a standard barracks factory build with a second barracks on the way. And the top right-hand corner, we have Taze, who has a barracks. Another barracks on the way, and as you can see, going for starport and factory. The only difference really being that he's gone for the engineering bay, but pretty much very similar builds, although obviously blue is going for the starport. Now, I've been looking for a while now for a fantastic T versus T to show you, to try and kind of show to people the problems people have been having with what I call tank wars. Just to bring up the army supply, keep an eye on it now, and I felt this replay was absolutely fantastic for that. Now, as you can see here, Hades rushing out with a very early marine tank force. Hades is a very aggressive player. He's a diamond player, British player, a player that is very up and coming within the leagues, and he's a player that's, you know, I also know. So it was very easy for me to get this replay off him when I was saying to him the kind of replay that I wanted to show on SC2 UK in regards to tactics with siege tanks. And I don't really think you'll get a much better tank. Leaving the siege tank there for defence, building up a little marine force, but you'll see this is a very small force now. 6 marines coming in here, siege tank sieging. Taz is there, but you'll notice with Taz, his siege is only at 30%. So Hades very early with that quick racks factory build, you know, add on to the factory, able him to get very early siege, allows him to put very early pressure on. But to be fair to Taze, he's defended very well now. Strategic bunker in the middle. You'll notice, as it is a Terran versus Terran, Hades has gone for the traditional block at the ramp, but Taze has gone for a more modern, I would say, a modern approach for T versus T, which is not to block off the ramp and to have the bunker in the middle. Now, what this is labelled Taze to do, obviously, Hades has backed off now, but he has managed to put up a siege tank just to block the ramp there. The marines are there, and although it is quite a small force, he is being able to reinforce out his legion now, and of course it is taking pressure off his side. Taze, on the other hand, is able to research finally his stim. This is the new stim that takes 170 seconds. And obviously he's been able to get siege up. And to be perfectly honest with you now, although Hades is advantage on tanks, we now have this situation which we often have in T versus T, which is a bit of a stalemate of tanks. But what I like about this play is the way Hades is really putting very, very early pressure on his opponent. I mean, the rollout was at the 4.5 minute mark, and of course during this time he is blocking off this expansion here, and in the meantime Hades has been able to get up his expansion with very, very little pressure. Now, Taze is resorting back with a Viking here to do a bit of scouting. I'm not sure how effective that was. And I think what you're going to find is Hades is getting about a nice little platoon of Marines that are coming up there. Still no stim, but it'll be interesting to see whether they catch this Viking or not. And now you're just seeing a bit of initial popping out here from Taze, but as you can see, his Marines are taking an absolute battering. But what is the Maginot line now of siege tanks? Now you can see there with the Ashcan. Now Hades is getting this because he's got that one Viking there, and he's getting the site advantage. And I think what you're finding here is because Hades hasn't been able to push that early advantage, he still does not have a starport, and unfortunately that is now meaning that he's having to pull back with these tanks, although he's still doing a wonderful job of blocking off this natural expansion here. So still very good from Hades, but obviously not having the starport is now starting to hit him, although he has recognised that now and he's starting to build it now. Just to give you a bit of sidebar, Hades is probably a mid-level diamond player, has been ever really since launch, trying to get up into the Masters, not quite got there yet, but who knows, with the Grandmaster League at 1.3 has every potential of doing that. He tells me that when he checked with Taze, Taze was a level 1 at the time. It was before the Season 2 had come into play, Platinum player. Now Taze is in a situation here, and he's been held up. But look at the resources now from TaZe. I mean, that is a very, very bad level of resources to be getting the 2,000 mark. And what I like about Hades is he's keeping the resource counter low and the gas counter low, really. But TaZe just slowly pushing out with the tanks. Massive carnage. Carnage to the Marines. Rushing from Hades. Hades is coming in with the Marines, but he doesn't have enough to take that top siege tank, and TaZe holds, but he has failed in the slow push out. Now, meanwhile, yet again, we are now on the 12-minute mark. Hades absolutely nailing it with these SCVs. He's got his natural up. He's got about, you know, I would say about 50% of saturation on the natural. You know, he's got about nearly 100% saturation at the full. And as you can see by this, you know, it is proving to be a very, very good game. As you can see probably by the timer, you know, this isn't a short game. I wasn't supposed to show you that timer, but I don't think that matters, because one of the things that I've been getting a lot of feedback for is these huge siege tank battles, and this was why I wanted this replay. You know, looking at just some of the players, you know, interesting with TaZe. You know, he's going all looking at the hotkeys he's using. Factory for 4. You know, racks on 5, 3 racks system, 2 obviously bases, and Hades, during while I've been talking, has had to fall back. He's felt that his position was untenable. I don't know whether he should have fallen back. I thought the pressure he was putting on there was very, very good. But what you found out with TaZe is he's actually given up on that natural expansion now. I don't even think TaZe is aware that Hades isn't there anymore, and he's actually gone for the expansion down here. And already Hades, in a very short amount of time with that build, and what I would suggest to you is to look back on this replay, look at the builds that they're doing, and then you'll see what that build has enabled him to do, which is to put very, very early pressure. He's put his natural expansion not where he originally wanted it, and now when we're looking at the army tab now, actually a lot closer than I think. 46 army supply to 44, so it really has come down to more economy, I think, in the fact that Hades has been able to set up that second base. But I'm sure if we were to speak to Hades now, he would be disappointed that he wasn't able to convert that early pressure into more of a lead. But still certainly hasn't done anything. But if we are looking at the tab now, Hades 93 of 94, whereas TaZe 84 of 89. So Hades does still have a very slight lead. Taking down these indestructible rocks. Very good map this, and I think in regards to the gold expansion, a natural expansion for people to take now, possibly over this expansion here, which is susceptible to attacks from the back, and obviously the high ground around it. You know, I mean, it is bearing in mind these aren't professional players. These are very, very good amateur players, and obviously we are trying to promote StarCraft 2 to new players alike, as well as, you know, established ones. So, you know, I don't have a problem with that. But what I like to see really in the replays on here is games that happen, and you do get these lulls in a lot of games down the lower leagues where nothing is a lot happening. And it's interesting to see what happens in these lulls, and I think there is sometimes a bit of a danger of attacking because you don't want to lose any advantage you may or may have. But of course we're looking at it from the point of view that we know Hades does have an advantage on food. He's 112 of 126, whereas you know, TaZe is 900 of 137. But of course, when you're playing the game, you know, you don't have those statistics at hand. I mean, I wish you did, but I think it would be slightly overpowered. So finally, TaZe's been able to get to a bit of normalcy here. I mean, you can see here the standard build, really. Marines, a few Marauders in there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tanks. In fact, actually, why don't we even look at the unit count, and that will even stop me from having to physically count them, which would be helpful. So 5 tanks from TaZe, 8 tanks from Hades. Hades has got the Viking advantage, he's got the Medvac advantage, he's got the... No, he hasn't got the Marine advantage, he's gone a lot heavier on Marines, TaZe, and I don't know whether that is a good move with the amount of tanks on the field at this point. So, for the first time in the game, you have a situation where TaZe ironically has 3 bases up and has surpassed Hades with the 2 base. But I mean, look at the saturation on here, and I think that's what you've got to look at when, if you want to start playing Diamond. You know, you have to keep up the supply on the SCVs as well as keeping up the saturation. Hades coming in now, you know, taking a nice spread of tanks there, you know, using his 9 tanks to full advantage, but it's a bit of a draw off now. Taze moving down to this expansion, moving his tanks down. Oh, absolute carnage on the Marines. Carnage, carnage, carnage. Absolute bloodbath. And then Taze bringing in his Marines. But I don't think he's seen the tanks at the back. The tanks at the back taking it out. But the Natural is taking a lot of the thing. The Marines are coming in again. And, nice exchange there by the two players. Hades' resources getting high, but I don't think we can criticise him for that. There's a lot of action going on there. And then Taze really, for the first time, being aggressive in this game. A nice position with the tanks here, but obviously doesn't have the view on the high ground, but he's using his 3 base, all, kind of scans, 3 scans he's got, able to have the energy to do this. But the tanks, yet again, are defending. Is Hades going to lose this? Hades loses it! He loses it, but the tanks are still there. And they're doing a lot of damage. And Taze is out of there. I mean, Taze has got no reason to be in there. He's taking his 3 tanks. But what you're seeing here is Hades using the Marines to full advantage. And he's going to snipe off these tanks before they make a good getaway. Very, very good play by Taze in that period of the game. Hades will be slightly chuffed off that he did lose that expansion. But in pure kind of like Hades fashion, he's going to put another expansion right in the place. Not to be deterred by that little setback. And I mean, for the first time in the game, really, Taze has gone in the lead. He's now 138 and 161. Hades is 112. There's still not a lot between the two players. Looking at the army size, let's have a look at some of these new replays. Worker supply, Hades behind. Army supply, Hades behind. So it does split the supply between workers and army quite nicely, that tab, and it is something that I think has been quite helpful. Looking at the units killed, which is also very handy for me. Let's look at the old control and R. Units killed 59 and 57. So I mean, really, if you're looking at a game that you want to look at, then this is not a bad game to be looking at for closeness for a siege tank battle game, because this game is really, really close. Very evenly matched players, both very good players at their level. And as you can see, slightly higher things. But he's coming in now. Taze coming in now from the left, using these Xel'Naga watchtowers as almost kind of starting points, as if he's launching an army from Dunkirk. And Hades is getting an absolute battering with these Marines. But you will notice as well, looking at the Marines, he does have upgrades on those Marines at a 2 and 1 upgrade. But Taze is being aggressive here. He's coming in, he's sniping off the expansion buildings to his main factories, and he's going to do carnage on these workers. And look at the workers killed now. 22, 24, 26, 30, 31, 37. Ouch, ouch, ouch. But Hades is coming in. He gets his Marines, he gets his tanks sieged in a position which stops the retreat. But that hurt. Worker carnage on that. But that was very, very good play from Taze. He just spotted the gap down that side, and it just allowed him to get in there and really, really give that expansion a good butchering, really. And those poor SCVs have gone to SCV heaven, and the worker count there as that blue bar shot up in Taze's favour. And now you have to look at this game now and look at it and say, well, okay, the units killed is similar, but Taze is on top. He is on top for this game. So catching my breath there, because I thought that was absolutely fantastic play by both players. And what I did like about Hades is he kept his calm, he kept his cool, he moved the siege tanks back, he placed them in a position which would stop the retreat from Taze, and he did manage to save the expansion, if not save the workers. Perhaps could have got the workers out a bit more. Looking at the APM for both players, very interesting. Obviously this is varying all the time. 105, 100 APM. I mean, actions per minute. I mean, that is quite a high actions per minute ratio from Hades. I mean, 144 actions per minute, 196. I mean, it's varying all the time. You've got to look at that. Looking at the more kind of like average point of view, 97 APM average for Hades, 82 for Haze, which, at this level is still very, very good. Very good. Okay. Here's Taze coming in again. I think being a bit slightly over-eager there with that army. And take that overlay off, which is blocking all the action. But you'll see the nice spread again from Hades of the tanks. He's not bunching them up in one place. Spread, 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 spread. He's spreading them like butter all over the place, really. And you've got a nice line now. So whatever angle whatever angle Taze takes here, he's going to get hit by a tank, and he cannot position his army in one direction to knock out all the tanks.